You know this face. It is one of the most reproduced images in human history, an icon of rebellion, revolution, and anti-establishment ideals. For many, he is a martyr, a symbol of fighting for the oppressed. For others, he was a cold-blooded killer, a dogmatic ideologue. The man was Ernesto Che Guevara. But who was he really, and how did the man become a myth? This is the code behind the world's most controversial hero. Born in 1928 in Argentina to a middle-class family, the young Ernesto Guevara was a boy defined by a physical frailty that should have crippled him. He suffered from severe chronic asthma, but instead of surrendering, he forged an iron will to overcome it, forcing himself to excel at sports like rugby, often running onto the field with an inhaler in hand. This lifelong battle against his own body taught him a crucial lesson, that the human will could triumph over physical limitations. His worldview was shattered by a journey. In 1952, the aspiring doctor and a friend embarked on a months-long motorcycle trip across South America. He witnessed crushing poverty and social injustice. A key moment came when they volunteered at a leper colony in Peru. There, he was moved by the humanity of the patients and angered by their social isolation. In a defiant act of solidarity, he refused to wear gloves, choosing to shake hands and eat with the lepers as equals. This journey ignited a fire within him, but the true moment of radicalization came in 1954 in Guatemala. There, he witnessed firsthand the CIA-backed coup that overthrew the democratically elected government of Jacobo Arbenz, simply because its land reforms threatened the profits of the American-owned Unit Fruit Company. He saw a hopeful society crushed by a foreign corporate power. The aspiring doctor returned a changed man, now believing that the only cure for the continent's sickness was a violent revolution. His path was set. In Mexico City, he met a group of Cuban exiles, led by a charismatic young lawyer named Fidel Castro, who was planning to overthrow the brutal US-backed dictator of Cuba, Fulgencio Batista. Castro saw in Guevara not just a doctor, but a fellow revolutionary. Che joined the expedition. It was in the crucible of the Sierra Maestra Mountains, during a 2-year guerrilla war, that Ernesto, the doctor, died, and Che, the commander, was born. He proved to be a brilliant and utterly ruthless guerrilla leader. His most legendary military achievement was the Battle of Santa Clara in late 1958. With a small force of just 300 guerrillas, he faced a garrison of over 3,000 government soldiers, backed by tanks and an armored train. In an act of tactical genius, Che used a bulldozer to rip up the railway tracks, derailing the armored train. His men then used homemade Molotov cocktails to create an inferno that forced the terrified soldiers out. The capture of the train shattered the morale of the government forces. The city fell, and within hours, the dictator Batista fled Cuba. Che had delivered the final fatal blow to the old regime. When the revolution triumphed in 1959, Che became one of the most powerful men in the new Cuba. This is where the heroic image begins to fracture. He was put in charge of the La Cabaña fortress prison, where he oversaw the revolutionary tribunals and the executions of hundreds of officials from the former regime. His supporters argue these were necessary acts of revolutionary justice. His detractors call him the Butcher of La Cabaña. Later, as Minister of Industries and President of the National Bank, his dogmatic adherence to Marxist-Leninist ideals proved catastrophic for the Cuban economy. His goal was ideological: to create the hombre nuevo, the new man. He believed the revolution could forge a new type of human, free from selfishness, who would work for moral, not material incentives. He even signed the currency notes with just his nickname, Che, to show his disdain for money. But this utopian experiment failed, leading to shortages and economic hardship. By 1965, Che had grown restless. He saw himself as a global revolutionary. In a poignant farewell letter to his children, he wrote, "Above all, always be capable of feeling deeply any injustice committed against anyone, anywhere in the world. It is the most beautiful quality in a revolutionary." With Castro's blessing, he left Cuba to export his revolution to the world. His first attempt in the Congo was a complete disaster. He found the local rebels disorganized, undisciplined, and riddled with infighting. His rigid, dogmatic approach clashed with the local culture, and he failed to inspire the very people he had come to lead. After months of frustration and failure, he was forced to flee in humiliation, a chastening experience that highlighted the vast difference between revolutionary theory and on-the-ground reality. His final fatal gamble was in Bolivia. In 1966, he led a small band of guerrillas into the Bolivian jungle, hoping to spark a continent-wide revolution. But the conditions were all wrong. The harsh jungle terrain exacerbated his severe asthma, leaving him weak and struggling to breathe. The local peasants were suspicious of him, and the Bolivian Communist Party offered no support. He was an outsider, fighting a battle no one else wanted. Outmaneuvered and abandoned, his small force was hunted down by the Bolivian army, aided by the CIA. On October 8, 1967, Che Guevara was captured. The next day, he was executed. He was 39 years old. The story should have ended there, but his death was the catalyst for his myth. His executioners took photos of his corpse to prove he was dead, laying his body out for the press. The resulting image, with his long hair, beard, and open eyes, made him look like a tragic, Christ-like figure, a martyr for his cause. But the true catalyst for his global icon status was a single photograph, taken years earlier. In 1960, at a memorial service in Havana, photographer Alberto Corda captured an image of Che in a moment of intense, smoldering determination. The photograph, titled Guerrillero Heroico, or Heroic Guerrilla Fighter, remained obscure for years. But after Che's death, it was mass-produced and adopted by student movements and activists worldwide. The image was stripped of its complex history, of the executions, of the economic failures, and became a blank canvas for rebellion. In a final, tragic irony, the face of the committed anti-capitalist became one of the most marketable and profitable brands on the planet, a symbol forever detached from the man himself. He remains a hero to those who fight against oppression and a villain to those who suffered under his command. And that is the architecture of the legacy of Che Guevara. Remember, history is more than a story. It's a code, and there is always another layer to decrypt. Subscribe and continue the investigation with us.